Hello, my name is Anastasia Macmillan, and I'm your host for the new documentary series called Into the Apocalypse. This new documentary series is about the experiences and the stories of those of us who came to the planet to become enlightened or realized, as we call it, because you realize your spirit, you realize your divinity while being in the body, and to stay in the body, to make the conscious choice to stay, so that we could, first of all, finally enjoy human life with everything that it can offer. And at the same time, would be able to bring more consciousness into this realm, into human life, into human experiences, and to all the processes that are happening on the planet. For me, a master is the spirit that becomes aware of itself while being in the human body. The spirit that is not defined by human experience, the spirit that lives outside of time and outside of space. It becomes aware of itself here, it wakes up in the human body, and it's amazed at its own beingness, and it wants to continue exploring itself. We don't even have to use the word master. We only mainly do it because that's the common way of describing that state that people have been using over centuries. So all the participants in our project, they're all embodied masters. They all have been following Crimson Circle work for many years, because Crimson Circle works specifically to help those who are on their way into embodied enlightenment. And so one of the Crimson Circle workshops was the connecting points for all of us. And why those particular masters became part of the project is because they were very, very honest, very, very genuine, and courageous enough to share their very personal, sometimes intimate, sometimes very uncomfortable stories about how it feels to live on the planet right now, and to be aware and to be going through all the changes that Heaven's Cross propelled. I was absolutely delighted to be invited to be a host for this project, because first of all, it is such a pleasure to connect with those who are so self-aware and so self-honest. And also because during my experiences that I was going through in life, I got really, really interested in how do you connect and how do you combine the awareness of the spirit and the experiences of the human. How do you do that and stay embodied? So why we decided to start capturing those experiences of the masters now is not only because we do have a lot of masters available at the moment, as opposed to a few years before. Now we have a lot of enlightened beings being on the planet, but also because we're going through the very special times right now on the planet. On March 22nd, we had the event that we refer to as Heaven's Cross, which is also called the Apocalypse. The Apocalypse has been referred to both in the biblical text and in the human history as the end of the world. But if we go back to the origins of the word, and if we look at what it actually is, what it really is, it is just the unveiling or the uncovering. The question becomes, what is it that is being uncovered? And what is becoming available is other sides or other parts of our own energy. We were filming the conversations with masters for a year so that we'd be able to see the changes that actually start happening to them once they go deeper into the opening. And by registering and by documenting those changes over a period of time, you're actually able to really see those changes, really see what has changed. So the participants themselves, they can say, oh, I don't know what is it exactly that changed, but I feel so different compared to 2 months ago or compared to 6 months ago. And for your own self, sometimes that difference is drastic. That's what's great about this project, is that we really, really saw the evolution of consciousness as it becomes more and more embodied with the human experience. So I was really, really interested in how do we show the full story of being enlightened, without trying to leave all the difficult stuff on the side and pretend that it's not there. How do we make it real? How do we make it really relatable for others? How do we not go into the trap of imagining that embodied enlightenment, you're going to be so insightful all the time, you're going to have all the answers all the time, you're not going to have any problems at any moment. That is just not true. That is not true. That has never been true. But that truth, it was just never available, because none of those masters who stayed on the planet for a while after they became enlightened, none of them actually recorded their experiences. We know about some of them. We know that miracles are possible. Magic is possible, and yet you can be very magical and you can have headaches. You can be very magical and you may just forget your keys and get locked out of your house. So this is one of my passions in life in general, and with this project in particular, is to be able to capture, to document, to chronicle the full story of what it means to be enlightened, what it means to be in the body, as a spirit, without hiding the difficult parts of the human experience. So I hope you enjoy watching it as much as I enjoyed having conversations with the masters. I hope you can relate to those stories, and I hope it inspires you to have your own stories and then to share them with us. So let's get started. So, can you please tell us your name, where you're from, where you live, how long have you been with the Crimson Circle, and if you choose, you can also tell us anything about what you do.
So I'm Anna, and I'm from Helsinki, Finland, and I live here.
My name is Martin Eilers. I'm from Germany, and I live in a town called Bremen, and it's in the north of Germany.
My name is Bettina Maria Weigel Anderson. I was born in Germany, and when I was 11, we moved to Denmark.
So my name is Marko, Marko Jurosovic, and I grew up in Serbia, born and raised in Serbia, and then I moved to America, 2009, September 9.
My name is Kim Seppälä. I'm Finnish-German. Currently, I live in Helsinki.
My name is Jerry Sweeten, and I come from Virginia in the United States. I lived there most of my life.
My name is Stefan Weigand, and I'm originally from Germany, but I moved to the States like now 21 years ago, like in 2002 to be exact.
My name is Maggie Hopfgarten. I live in Palisade, Colorado, which is on the western side of the state.
My name is Hisako Hino. I'm from Japan, and I've lived in Tokyo for about 30 years, but recently I've moved out of Tokyo to the outskirts of Tokyo.
Меня зовут Людмила Руденко, город Колюсе. Я родилась на юге России, в городе Краснодаре, но живу в Москве.
How many years have you been with the Crimson Circle?
Since 2003. That's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 20 years.
I joined Crimson Circle in, what I should say, well, I joined in eons ago, but I discovered it in June 2020.
So I've been with Crimson Circle since 2005, since my mid-20s. So that's almost half of my life.
And I found Crimson Circle in 2015, and I've been with them since.
How long have you been with the Crimson Circle? When did you discover Crimson Circle?
It's nearly 8 years.
I've been with the Crimson Circle since 2012. although I feel like I've been with Shambra for forever.
Алый круг в моей жизни появился с момента появления в Москве с русским переводчиком Стива Ротера. С этого момента, с 2007 года, я могу сказать, что я читаю Алый круг более интенсивно с 2008 года.
How long have I been with Crimson Circle? So I found Crimson Circle in 2006.
I started participating in Crimson Circle probably 23 years ago, or maybe.
Wow. You're a true veteran.
Yeah, I think it was 2000 or right before Y2K. I found Crimson Circle through Cryon, through Lee Carroll Cryon, and just never looked back.
I've been with the Crimson Circle since late 2019, so just a few years. But when I discovered Crimson Circle, I felt like I found my metaphysical home.
I own my own company. I'm a writer and I work with people. I started as a channeler and then that evolved into this my own kind of therapy work. So mostly these days I do this therapy that I call therapy. And I would say I'm a teacher of self-love. And so a lot of the work has to do with helping people find deeper connection with themselves.
Right now I'm in Connecticut visiting my business, my Dane Studios, as you can see here.
I chose to be a teacher, and I have worked in the Danish school system as a Danish and all kind of other subjects teacher, teaching the children Danish, reading and writing. I taught mentally disabled children and normal children. And then later, alongside, I started getting interested in being a therapist. So I started getting education and experience in that field.
I had a manufacturing business for 25 years and was raising children, and it all came to pass about the same time as they were launched in their lives, and the business came to a natural end, and I closed the business for good in December of 2022. It felt like it was part of my exit strategy. It was part of my movement towards freedom. Because what I did was I decided at that time that I was going to get in the RV and I was going to go.
Изначально я эндокринолог-андролог. Работаю с нарушениями половых гормонов. Это, конечно же, мужское и женское бесплодие, это нарушение гормонального характера у женщин и мужчин после 45 или 50 лет и, соответственно, вытекающие оттуда последствия. Эректильная дисфункция, аноргазмия, возможности нарушения либидо и чувствительности оргазма. И, соответственно, эти моменты, они вызваны гормональными нарушениями. Я как раз работаю с этим, чтобы осчастливить людей, вернуть им нормальную сексуальную жизнь, соответственно, в их ежедневную жизнь и сделать их счастливыми и удовлетворенными.
I'm early retired already, so before I worked in a company in civil service as a mid-level manager, and I got a burnout, and it was obvious that it will take a long time till I will recover. So the company retired me, and I was quite happy with it. And for me, it's amazing to see how my soul works for me, even in a time where I was completely unconscious of the path I'm on.
And by trade, I'm a psychologist. I've only been working fully, like full-time, for a couple of years. Before that, I just didn't have the energy. I didn't have maybe the good enough energy management to deal with all of that and work.
I did work for Crimson Circle for a time. I helped launch the teacher program for the workshops, the Tobias and Adamus workshops. And I also wrote a lot of the curriculum that accompanied those workshops. Since then, I am retired. I'm pretty outdoorsy, love to travel, love to be in nature. And yeah, it's about me.
At the moment, I don't work, but I used to work as an engineer for over 10 years. And also after that, I used to work as a translator.
I did physics because it gave me more options. With physics, I could do, business, I can stay in research, or I could do software, which I do now. I'm basically a programmer. But the only other reason I actually also decided to do physics is the metaphysics that we now start talking about with Adamus a lot.
Crimson Circle is an established organization, and it's very spread out, and it has a lot of Shaumbra all over the world who are following it. Back when it all started, when no one really knew what it's going to become, how did it feel? How did you choose to be part of it?
It chose me. I is the best answer I can give you. I didn't necessarily choose it. The energy, the information, and blessed Tobias. Tobias chose me. And so truly, like many things, it was a book falling off the shelf. It resonated with me. The first couple of words from Tobias, the Creator Series, completely resonated with me. And so in that regard, it chose me. It was familiar. It was ancient. It was home. It was a connection that I couldn't describe any other way than just remarkable.
I did actually some astrology sessions, where they're based on my date, birth date and birth time and location. They can really be specific. And she suddenly said something, in 2005, end of 2005, you will have a lot to do with channeling. And I'm like, channeling? What is that? Like with TV or what? And he's like, no, it's like, when messages come through to other persons. And I'm like, okay, probably not, but okay.
Saint-Germain was quite a character for me, and I always ask me if it's real what I read or is it just made up. The name Saint-Germain popped up in two different situations, completely separate from each other. And I thought, what does it mean? I can look up at the internet after the name Saint-Germain. And suddenly I came to Adamus Saint-Germain and the Crimson Circle.
So went into all kinds of directions, but no one offered like the completeness in a way. There was always certain truths here, certain truths there. That by then with Crimson Circle, I was just amazed, how down to earth it was so applicable, and it felt just at home. And then, learning more and more where we are coming from, it just made sense. It's just, a long history in the making. So you couldn't plan it the way I found them. It's got really, really amazing. And then it was, once I found them, I just knew that's it. It felt like home. It was just like, when I finally listened to Tobias' messages, it's just like, wow, finally I'm here,
Well, to me, Shaumbra feels like family. It feels like there's a connection there, even if I don't meet often with Shaumbra in person. But whenever I meet them, I feel connected. I feel this connection that we've shared for so many lifetimes. So, yeah. But it's been a really important part of my life, I would say.
And then I heard my first shout, and there was something special. I think it was about you can't do it wrong. And these words were not only that I understand it here, but there was a deep feeling that I got it here. And it was like a big relief. I said, wow, I will stay and look what this circle, Crimson Circle, is about. And since then, I never missed a shout.
And when I found Adamus, when I found the Crimson Circle, it was an absolutely extraordinary change for me, because I found a teacher that knew more than me. And that I am pleasantly and delightfully surprised by what's happening now, and the physics and what things I've always suspected about the physical universe. And I've always said to people, I said, well, we're just slowed down light anyway, you know.
I come from a scientific background, right? So I was very skeptical about this all new agey stuff. So for me, it was then really surprising about getting this feeling in the body where I was like, wow, this feels so true, you know, and so home.
Мое сознание, моя энергия, мое тело вибрировало со всем, о чем говорил именно Адамус. И вот эта вот вся эта грубость, жесткое расставление границ, это наоборот как раз-таки меня впечатлило, потому что я наконец-то поняла, что со мной все в порядке. Это было, конечно же, внутреннее ликование, состояние наслаждения, что наконец-то со мной все в порядке, и я нашла то, что я так долго искала.
I took the SES course, became a teacher, then the aspectology, became a teacher. So eventually I became a teacher in Dreamwalker. Death, birth, ascension, and Dreamwalker life. So I have traveled with my healing and with the Crimson Circle courses, mostly that would somehow go together, because the people that were interested in the healing eventually got interested in Crimson Circle as well.
How did you come around this task of doing a curriculum for a class?
Tobias or Adamus would structure the workshop as, you know, Jeff would deliver it. So it would be delivered once live, and more often than not, I would be in attendance, sitting in the back, taking copious notes and feeling into the energy and watching the people's reactions to things.
I started also teaching my own courses, using a lot of breathing and having Kuthumi and Adamus next to me, giving me lots of input and ideas. So it has been a very, very deep experience for me to teach the courses.
I have a background in teaching and writing curriculum. So it was a great partnership. I have to say that Adamus is an excellent teacher. In fact, creating a workshop based on Adamus's delivery and Adamus's structure or outline was easy. It was so much easier.
It has been given me such a rich life, both all the Crimson Circle materials, everything Tobias said. Oh, it was so much love coming from Tobias and actually from Sai Baba as well. Those are the two beings that have really showered me with love and understanding, and later Adamus as well, but he's a bit different, but also very supportive.
Я купила все материалы Алого Круга, что касается Адамуса, конечно же, и понятное дело, что каждый семинар давал свой отклик, свое мини-просветление. Для меня Адамус был это все, да. Это тот глоток воздуха, который помог мне оставаться жить на земле.
What you just said about like Adamus being a trusted friend, he feels at this point more like a contemporary than. I honor the teachings he's doing, but when I go to live events, I feel like I'm talking to my friend, and I love that. I absolutely love that.
What came first, you discovering your channeling abilities or joining Crimson Circle? What was first?
Well, I've been what you could call a clairvoyant since I was a child, and so I had these abilities already as a kid, and I experienced these expanded states of being, if you would call it that, or just my natural state. And I found Crimson Circle, and it wasn't until a few years later that I started channeling for people. And already back in the day, or still back in the day, I was working in media. And so I did this channeling thing as a kind of a side business. And then at some point, 2015, I transferred to what I'm doing now. And it started as writing a book.
Well, I love to write. It's partly for myself. It's a way to get clarity. You know, the process of writing also is a way to integrate experiences for me. But yeah, also it's my one of the ways how I connect with Shaumbra. Like when I write for the magazine specifically, I kind of tap into the Shaumbra energies and also listen to maybe what would be supportive or inspiring or fun for others to read. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a dialogue that I'm having with Shaumbra in a way.
I was kneeling in the balcony of the Catholic Church that we were a part of, and I felt this draw, I felt this inner compass pulling me, and I remember kneeling like a good Catholic boy should and making a commitment to follow that inner compass no matter where it took me. And throughout my life, I have engineering and philosophy degrees. Then I got married and had children and all that, but I had this kind of secondary agenda that was hanging in the background for me all that time, of a deeper inquiry that this inner compass was still pulling me to.
В 17 лет я стала себе задавать более активно вопросы, почему я страдаю. Церковь мне ответы на мои вопросы не дала, поэтому было погружение в различные, я сейчас это смешно говорю, сектантства. Это были различные песнопения мантр, это была космоэнергетика, это работала с чисткой чакр, с космоэнергетическими различными манипуляциями, да, и самое главное это прости других, будь рабом, постись, запрети себе любое удовольствие, как говорится, повинуясь всему и всем в этой жизни, тогда ты, возможно, осветишь себя.
In 2000, I was in the ashram of Satya Sai Baba, where I met a couple that was doing a healing that I call spine healing. And when I came home, I went to that place and got initiated as a Reiki master and then into spine healing. I have traveled with the healing and in Europe, in Germany, Denmark, Austria, Sweden, Norway, even Russia, and also did this healing in India.
Соответственно, начала заниматься веянием школы последователей, да, Махариши Махеш-йоги. Это гуру группы Beatles. И непосредственно его учение, оно было основано на ведах, поэтому я прочитала большое количество вед. Это была аюрведа в этот период, как раз-таки я была где-то около 3 лет вегетарианка. И это, конечно же, йога и обязательно все необходимые медитации, мантра-медитации, которые, соответственно, к этому прилагаются. И на тот момент, конечно же, когда я прошла йога-ситхи, это левитирующая йога, когда ты читаешь определенную мантру, и ты отрываешься от Земли, потому что нарушается процесс гравитации. Собственно говоря, это ты оказываешься как раз-таки в этой точке 0, когда ты лишен гравитации, да, то, о чем говорил у нас Адамус 14 января. в Киохаке 2023 года, именно когда мы сейчас проживаем период высвобождения старой гравитации. Вот ситхи-йога как раз-таки помогала, тогда я еще об этом не знала, собственно говоря, ощутить эту точку ноль, когда ты лишен гравитации.
I got into a very intensive energetic healing program. It was almost 3 years of the same people for 3 years. We had group therapy, we did 12-step program, we did all kinds of things, but learning to trust my energetic senses in terms of working with people. I wanted to be able to do that for people. I wanted to be able to be a healer for people. And to do that in the state of Virginia, I needed to either be a massage therapist or a minister. So I went and became went with One Spirit Alliance and became a inner spiritual minister over the next 2.5 years. Concurrently with that, I was studying Peruvian shamanism and just sort of that mystical end of things.
I started working with crystals and feeling the energies of crystals. So that was my preparation because I could have a stone and, well, I don't feel anything. And then I have another stone and then it felt different, right? So my sensibility in my hands was starting with the crystal healing.
Тогда вопрос такой, если это было настолько захватывающе, что тебя в этом смутило, что ты перестала это все делать?
Потому что мы чистим чакры, мы медитируем, мы что-то делаем, мы занимаемся вегетарианством, мы молимся, а проблема как была в жизни, так она остается, она не решается. Деньги тратятся, количество сертификатов увеличивается, всех пройденных семинаров, количество книг, стоящих на полках, прочитанных, увеличивается, а результата 0,0, да?
You know, I've been with Crimson Circle for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but the changes are so much compared to the prior 20, 30 years. So it's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's better, much, much better. My life is so much better than before.
November that year, I moved to Hawaii. I kind of said goodbye to my old life. Just left. It was just like that. I just left. I only had a suitcase and a car, and that's it. Just left for Hawaii. So
I remember Adama saying that if you change, it'll be good for the family, you know, people around you too. So like half of me was like saying, yeah, you're doing for the kids too. Yeah, we'll take the next step. And that pushed me a lot. And it had really changed my circumstances, my family, and I'm glad I took the steps I did.
Did you experience that complete change of things around you, or is it still pretty much on the same kind of track of going where you wanted to go?
There's been some very dramatic changes in my life. I don't have a home. I closed up my house in February of 2021, and I've been living in the RV and traveling and just not in a very conventional lifestyle, but it's been one that has provided me the opportunity to soak into the materials that the Crimson Circle's been putting out, and it's been an absolute delight for me.
One of the most important things, like the biggest leap for me after the workshop, and like you say, when I kind of knew, all right, this is now a different life, this is a new life, is where regardless if there was like a problem, you know, if there was, because of course I had doubts, you know, like I left the business, I left my old life, and it just like that left. My mind is like, are you sure? You're crazy. Like, what are you doing? You're going to be broke after a month, you know, all the employees are going to quit and students are going to leave, and, you know, so doing the mind things, and I wanted to keep you safe. So it was tough, you know, I had to just kind of let the doubts do their thing. But what I learned at a workshop was like, okay, I can always choose to realize, in a sense, that I'm always whole, that everything's going to be fine, no matter what. And that really helped me a lot. So yeah, that's when like everything really started changing.
It's starting to sink in, this whole Heaven's Cross, that I was a realm worker, and it really feels like that phase ended. And like I'm waiting for something new, but I don't know yet what it is.
So it's interesting. I think with the, with the Heaven's Cross, when the awareness is kind of wide open, and then I think we feel way easier, what's going on behind the curtain, kind of. So if there's like some games that are being played, or somebody has an agenda and stuff like that, and then I feel that, and then it's really intense.
It's not about getting away from the human as much as it is embracing more fully my humanness.
When you're a master, you don't have health issues. When you're a master, you don't have emotional roller coasters. When you're a master, you don't fight with your spouse. None of that's true.
I almost stopped saying, wow, yesterday I had such a big shift. I mean, yesterday was really the biggest shift I ever had. Like, I almost feel like I want to say that every day if I talk to somebody, especially Shambra.
I feel like the spirit and heart are really coming to the forefront in the way that on the human level, there's not much room for any kind of compromise anymore.
And if there's anything coming up, all these aspects that are funny and strange and interfering, that the more you breathe, of course they will come up, but there's always so much help in it. I mean, anything you experience, breathe with it, and that will really help.
I think we all, Shambra, all go through this, and I know it's difficult, but yeah, but you're the only one that can change it, so that's how I feel now.